Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
September 13th. This week isn't just another news week. It's one of those weeks you'll remember. Because what just happened in Poland? That's not a headline. That's history breaking through the door. Russian drones crossed into NATO airspace. Poland fired back. Meanwhile, the world's pretending this isn't the moment Ukraine has been warning about. We're not on the edge of World War III anymore. We're in it. While America is distracted, tearing itself apart over culture wars, Putin is escalating, hitting civilians, hitting borders, and daring the West to blink first. This is why we're here, to look history in the eye and call it what it is. To stop pretending neutrality is moral, to stop letting propaganda set narrative of our future. Welcome, this is Ukraine Updates with the Shills, where we wreck Russian lies, roast fascists, and give freedom the last word. I'm Slavie, your co-host, and let's say hello to the host and our panel joining us today.
That was great. That was awesome. There's so much to break down and go over and get into and stuff. I don't even want to start with my little blurb, so I'll just pass it right back to you and say thanks for joining us, everybody.
Absolutely. Next, we have Commander McMillan. How is it going?
Outstanding.
Fantastic. I'm definitely looking forward to hearing your breakdowns of what's going on in the world. Next up, we have Johnny joining us. How's it going?
It's going great. We have lots of great news coming from Ukraine and some heartbreaking news from United States. So let's discuss some of that.
Absolutely, we will. Next, we have Kristaps from Latvia joining us. How's it going?
Hello. Well, a bit busy. Hadn't slept for 2 nights before this one. Had a good night's sleep because, again, of all the events in Poland, and also moving to a countryside house that we got that's going to be 24 kilometers from Russia. Pretty busy overall, but otherwise doing well. Better than usual, I'd say.
Well, you're surely in a good mood after all that, but definitely looking to hear your thoughts on everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not least, we have journalistic extraordinaire living in Kiev, Phil Ittner. How's it going?
Good, good. Thank you. We have a good show planned for tomorrow. I host a weekly interview show, and we had a young American kid over here, Luke Beasley, who's got a large audience in the States primarily. So hopefully he'll raise a little bit of consciousness about what's going on over here. And as far as what we saw this week in Poland, to paraphrase a band from your neck of the woods, Dick, Rush, if you choose not to make a choice, you still have made a choice.
Yes.
So inaction is a form of action. It's decision. So we better start reconsidering not doing anything when the Russians keep testing our limits.
Well said, man.
Well, this was the big story that happened on the night of September 9th into the 10th. Poland's skies lit up. Russian drones crossed the border. NATO jets, they scrambled, and Warsaw fired back. Let's put it that way. It took them about 2 hours to take out one Russian Iranian Shahed drone. That says a lot. And yeah, this wasn't Ukraine's war spilling over, by the way. This was a NATO country getting invaded. It's an act of war.
So I would say there's 5 key things about it here. You've got the action itself. You've got the reaction. You've got the meaning of the action. You know, what's truly the purpose here? You've got the effectiveness of the reaction, and then the fallout. What's to become from this, both on the orc side and the NATO side? That's how I pretty much see this, right? So, Commander, first, the action itself. What's the thinking behind it from your perspective and experience? What are they going for here?
I think what's happened is that the Russians have figured out that threatening nuclear use isn't doing anything. People have kind of laughed that off as BS.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to express their displeasure through other means. Now, it's interesting that this attack, but incursion, we'll say.
Yeah,
because technically, I wouldn't call it attack because none of the drones were armed.
Mm-hmm.
They were basically just drones.
Well,
they didn't have a sensor package. They didn't have explosives or anything. They just kind of all flew across the border. Now, the numbers are in dispute. I've heard as high as 19. I've heard as low as 11. But it's a significant number, all at roughly the same time, so we know it's not an accidental oops, our targeting was off thing. This was a deliberate act. It's occurring at exactly the same time that the Russians are mounting a big military exercise with Belarus. It's an exercise that they used to hold annually called Zapad. They haven't held it since the start of the special military operation. For the first time, they're doing it now, and they're doing it right on the Polish border. To let people know we're not happy. So if you combine those two, I think this is a simple message of you need to take us seriously. We told you we don't want you supplying Ukraine with weapons and financing and anything. Stop it or we'll do something dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So they launched these at Poland between Polish ground-based air defenses and NATO aircraft in the air. They took out a significant number of them, but also some of them actually went through and hit their targets, which were, with one exception, out in the middle of nowhere. The one exception was a farmhouse that got hit. That's the only one that I would subscribe to saying that was a targeting error.
Right.
Because all the others went, into non-inhabited fields. NATO's response was pretty good. As soon as they were detected, they scrambled aircraft. So you have Danish F-35s and Polish F-16s shot down. Again, the numbers are vague. I would say between 3 to 8 of them were down by air defenses, depending on which source you trust.
It's a part I want to get to coming up was, from my understanding, the kill rate isn't what it should have been.
No, it wasn't. To a large extent, I would subscribe that to the fact that unlike Polish air defenses, or excuse me, Ukrainian air defenses, which are on alert 24/7 because attacks are very common, the NATO slant Polish air defenses were probably on a low state of alert, and they didn't detect them until later in the attack, which is when they responded and took out a bunch of them.
Yeah, I think that means that inevitably there are going to be Polish soldiers in Ukraine very, very soon, being trained directly by Ukrainians. I think that is a darn near inevitability, which Moscow, of course, will performatively freak out about because of their history with the Poles and NATO presence and all that kind of lip flapping and saber rattling.
Phil, do you think at all that could be the opening of the floodgates that gets other people more talking about boots on ground and
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's also been discussion of setting up a no-fly zone corridor with, I think it was 25 kilometers on either side of the Polish Belarusian border. The Poles have already shut down the border, of course. So how do you reinforce a no-fly zone? You're going to have direct NATO involvement and air defenses that are going to have to be postured to protect that stretch of Ukrainian airspace, which of course also Moscow will scream bloody murder about. But it will, and for the Ukrainians, it will actually provide them a nice little stretch of territory where they can put some of their kit and feel relatively safe about it. Does it also mean that, like, Macron, 8 months ago, floated the idea of providing French support for like border control and logistics and things like that. So would Polish trainers coming into Ukraine initiate or free up Macron to follow through with that kind of concept? I don't know. I think that would be.
That's a hard call to make. Yeah.
But look, Moscow's going to scream bloody murder about no matter what.
Yeah,
they're going to. It's just what they do. So, but I do think this is a sea change moment.
Yeah, one thing I won't say contradict, but kind of disagree with is, I think Poland would be a little reticent about committing troops inside Ukraine, and the reason being is that if those troops are there and they start getting killed, then they can't really invoke Article 5 because it's not an attack on their home territory. So they have to think about that really carefully.
I think,
but I do know that Warsaw has already floated this idea of sending them here, because I know there's the training center, which the name of it escapes me at the moment. There's a training center in southeastern Poland where people have been going. But obviously, it's just going to be better to be here. So I don't know. I know. I take your point, though.
Perhaps you wanted in on that?
Yeah, I think more realistic idea is that they will send their troops. I don't really think it's going to be in combat positions, though. I think what's going to happen is that they are going to send in the troops and do all the rear guard actions. I don't think they'll see active combat, but they'll do things that allow that free up forces for Ukrainians. Say, guarding supply bases, stuff like that, but things that are needed to be done in the rear, thus not being directly directly involved in bloodshed, with much less risk of them dying, because again, Article 5, all these nuances like you mentioned. I think they'll do all the boring stuff that armies do, thus freeing more Ukrainians to go and fight. That's how I perceive it. This is more like the scenario.
That's a very slippery slope, as the U.S. learned in Vietnam. You start out with, we're just having some training mission stuff. And then the people who are doing the training start getting attacked. So now we have to put in bases to protect the trainers. And then those bases, and eventually you get committed to a full war. So it's a very dangerous escalatory position to be in.
Yeah, but we've reached the point in history where dangerous escalatory options is the only one that A, works, and the only option that B, we actually have if we want for something to happen or change, really.
Yeah,
there are no safe options remaining, really. If safe options
I get your point. I'm just saying that
it's dangerous. I agree,
it's
but
something that needs to be considered before they decide that they're going to send troops into Ukraine proper.
Obviously, but about all this stuff, I want to talk about. If we're done with this point, I want to talk about two reactions here. About one that's happened here in the Baltics, and the other one that I saw. As you know, I monitor all these Vatnik channels, and I'll have a lot to say about what they said on this whole mess. Sure. Because, well, for one, in the Baltics, everyone was a bit worried that that nothing's going to happen. The biggest worry in our press is that we're very much looking at Western Europe, especially, about how they are going to react to this, because everyone here basically thinks, and analysts and media, that if there is no concrete, if the reaction to this stops at just expressing concern, then Russia's just gonna move onwards. We already closed our eastern, we closed their space on our eastern border, where I live, basically, where my house is. It is in that area, and Estonia did that too today. So we're very worried, and we're making our own plans in case of whatever. But meanwhile, Russian media at the beginning, they did not know what was up, but then their analysts started always one stating that this is only beneficial for Ukraine. They want to get things involved, so that the official thing that is spread around in their propaganda materials is that Ukrainians basically managed to somehow steal drones from Russia, and then they sort of did this, and they used the fact that they didn't have explosives as proof. But then there's also theories that it was actually Polish people who smuggled these drones in, and then they sort of send them in. At the beginning, they said there were no drones at all, because they were like, yeah, right. Basically, they were in typical fascist fashion. They were like, yeah, how could
typical fascist fashion? That was fucking good.
The thing is that they believe at the same time that everyone in the West is super weak. However, their argument was that surely if we would send in drones into NATO territory, they would be all beaten down instantly. It's like at the same time all this happens. And that's sort of big, messy, logical thing, which I really have stopped worrying about. But their propaganda makes zero sense in this matter. However, what I've noticed is that those drones who got shot down, Poland is doing very well right now organizing this drone hunting methods with Ukraine, because the methods they use to shoot down these drones, very expensive. Ridiculously expensive and horrid. Therefore, spending Patriot missiles on these drones is sad and shouldn't be done. So they're now apparently working with Ukrainian military to get some training themselves into how to deal with this stuff better.
That makes sense.
Also, I think Poland is making a deal with Ukraine for the anti-drone systems that Ukraine has.
Yeah, because simply these drones are just if they will keep coming, and Ukraine is Poland, if Poland is going to continue to use the current super efficient, expensive systems, it's not good when you have to spend $1 million to shoot down something that costs less than 10,000. So
yeah, it wasn't practical what they did, but sorry, never mind.
Oh, go ahead. I was just agreeing as you were going. I was just going, yep.
Nope, I had one of those, I had it and then I lost it. So.
I was going to say, I like the problem with NATO's approach, which is that everything is an expensive missile system. Even the cheap missiles are relatively expensive. And people who watched the deployment of stuff going into Poland from various European countries help. One of the things that the Ukrainians really liked was a system called Gepard, which is a 40 millimeter radar controlled tank used for air defense. The trouble is NATO doesn't make those anymore. The Germans aren't making them. Other countries don't really have that. Everything's gone to a missile system, which highlights the fact that with the new sudden ascendancy of drones, it really would be wise for NATO to start investing in shorter range, cheaper options to take down these drones rather than wasting expensive missiles.
Johnny, we haven't heard much from you. What do you got to think on all
Sorry,
this?
1 second.
Okay.
We're having a question coming in for Commander McMillan on this topic. It's coming from, it wasn't me. It's asking if NATO polls were on a low alarm status, isn't the fact that they spent so much more money on shooting down cheap Russian drones alarming in itself? Thank you.
Yeah. As I said, this highlights the deficiency within NATO's air defense program. So I think they're going to have to start thinking outside the box. Part of the problem is that NATO has been at peace for a significant long period. So the business side of things has gotten very, just like it is in the US, gotten pretty heavy on influencing what the acquisition process focuses on.
Raise the prices, raise the prices.
Buying a 40 millimeter anti-aircraft gun as opposed to buying a anti-air missile, that's cheap. This is expensive. We'd prefer you spend lots of money to help shore up our economy.
Exactly.
So
Mr.
to
Johnny.
my understanding, yes, to my understanding, this operation that Russia has done, obviously deliberately, despite what Donald Trump is saying, it's a daring operation because first thing that comes to mind is NATO may invoke Article 5, or Poland may send some troops to Ukraine, and that would be like a really bad thing for Russia because they can barely handle what's happening on the battlefront in Ukraine right now. They're really scrambling to contain Ukraine. Ukraine is doing wonderfully. I think what Russians have done is they knew exactly what kind of reaction is going to happen in the West and in NATO. They knew that NATO was not going to invoke Article 5, and they were correct, so it seems. They knew that Poland, I think it's correct that Poland is not going to send troops to Ukraine. I think the biggest thing they were trying to accomplish, and it's working, they were trying to get Poland busy with their own defense, and so that they would send less aid to Ukraine. They already done that with Baltic countries. I think Kristaps can back me up on that. But what they've done is at the beginning of war and throughout the war, the Baltic countries have been the biggest supporters of Ukraine. They would send everything they have to Ukrainian front lines. And of course, that helped Ukraine a lot, that shifted the positions on the battlefield. And what Russia has done, they started building fortifications on the border of those countries, even though Russians don't have troops to spare. But that was a scare tactic that actually the Baltic countries had to react to, and they started putting more defenses on their own borders to counter that. Even all those fortifications remain empty, but Russia used that to basically halt the help that Ukraine was getting at the time. And whatever help they were sending to Ukraine, it would have to be a little less.
I want to
So
comment
in
on
this
this.
case,
I will
yes.
comment on this because it's not only just that, because recently there was a scandal about which Western European press again branded us evil people, because what's going on is that Lukashenko is using Syrian people. Like the situation is that he has agents in Syria and other places like that, and he is basically promising them that, oh no, you can come over to the border. We're going to get you into EU. Like basically, they're making people pay so that they would come and so that they would enter here through Belarus, and then obviously they're not being let in because of course, not all of them, but a bunch of them have been well vetted and made sure that they work for Belarusian special services. But we have people over here who decided that it's very inhumane that these people are just sent away and they can go home. So a couple of days ago, I think a lady who was organizing this, as she calls it, Help for Syrian Refugees campaign, actually got criminally charged, and she was convicted to 200 hours of public service just for this, because she had literally she had helped smuggle these people in here using illegal border crossings and messing with the work of our already stressed out border guards. But of course, everyone in the very ultra-sensitive type of media said, oh no, Latvia is being racist again, even though they just don't understand the security situation and what's at risk here. So yeah, the whole situation with us being pestered about this and having our own problems here, yeah, it's pretty rough. And it doesn't really help that every time, you turn on the news, well, I would enjoy seeing my little country in the news more often, but lately it's been a bit too much and a bit in a context that I don't really like. And again, I now have a house and I'm moving in that very region. So if there are going to be any Russian tanks popping in Latvia, I'll be quite probably the first journalist to report.
You're going to be like a stone's throw from the entry point, right?
Yeah, it's literally 24 kilometers. It's like, I'll shift that into miles if someone needs it.
We're going to have to fundraise some toys that go boom for the man, just in case,
Oh no, I have FPV drones, but it's like 15 miles from the Russian border for Americans.
Wow.
It's a nice place, though. Really
that's cool. Only a couple laps around a racetrack, man. That ain't far.
So what Kristaps was saying, yeah, I actually like that what you said, because that goes exactly along what I was saying. It's part of Russian strategy to overwhelm the West and get them busy to deal with their own safety and security, and kind of give up or maybe send less stuff to Ukraine just because they're busy doing something else. What they were doing with Russia and Belarus, they were getting plane loads of Syrian refugees, dropping them directly at like Latvian and Estonian and Polish borders, and tell them like, go through the border. That's Europe. That's your freedom. That's the good life. And basically, those people desperate enough, they would actually start overwhelming the border. They would break the border in certain areas, and that was a humanitarian crisis that Russia, with the help of Belarus, artificially manufactured. And going back to this Polish situation, right now Poland has announced the deployment of 40,000 troops on a border with Belarus in the wake of this drone strike. So obviously Poland is getting involved, but they are getting involved on their own territory, which means they may have less time to think about how they're going to help Ukraine. And that's kind of the gist of Russian strategy. Of course, every Russian strategy falls apart eventually and bites Russia back in the ass, because this is war. You cannot calculate everything, and people are not stupid. Westerners are not as dumb as Russia thinks they are.
They might be as fat as they think we are, but not as dumb. I'm definitely putting a few on these days, man.
We're proud of our fat. So what kind of exciting is Poland, together with Denmark and Germany, and I think a couple other countries, they have now contacted Ukraine because they realized that they're absolutely not ready to deal with these drones. They were chasing one drone for 2.5 hours with their jets. They used, I think, Patriot for some of them, which is like, I don't know, using a missile to kill a mosquito or something. Basically,
Sherman tank as a fly swatter.
Ukraine has been developing these amazing interceptor drones, which is a very new technology. Dick, if you look into some of the pictures I sent you this morning, there's one of those. It's
the dude holding it. Is it the?
The black one. and basically, that's what it looks like. There's a guy in the field. He kind of just throws it. It's nothing fancy, but it's cheap. And
It looks like it's
flies
made of
fast.
composites and stuff, very light and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the latest
They've got
technology.
they've got another version as well, which kind of is almost like a VTOL platform, although they don't need the land, so I guess it would be just VTO, which is just vertical takeoff. These drones that they take off straight up, and then they angle over once they're at a certain elevation.
Is that this picture?
No,
this is actually. You know what this is? I think Phil knows it, but this is American version of these same drones. Americans are waking up to the idea that the war is changing, and we are now making these drones. This is a prototype of the same drone, but it's
weird kind of flathead cylinder looking engine thing there. What the hell's going on there? It's
like a motorcycle engine. That's what this
it's like
drones are good at.
It's like somebody put the engine out of a BMW motorcycle onto a drone.
Essentially, that's what it is. It's an engine from a motorcycle.
Yeah, kick ass.
Yeah, for sure. We have a question coming in from Stephen Walsh, and he's wondering if there's an anti-air gun artillery that is in prevalent numbers that could be modernized. Bofors L-70 mount to truck to backstop Jeopard.
Madus.
Everybody looks at, and everybody just sits here and looks at Commander.
They do have systems that would be a very effective counter. The trouble is there are far too few of them because NATO went down the other road. And I think this is a wake-up call to say, dudes, maybe we need to invest in some of that cheap, very effective stuff for this threat.
Yeah.
Instead of wasting $250,000 missiles to shoot down a $10,000 drone.
We're only live for 32 minutes so far, and that topic's already come up a couple of times. So obviously there's a thread of truth in there that's like rope.
This is a
living here in Kiev, there, I can't tell you how many sleepless nights I've had where it's just throwing lead up into the air. It's just mass amounts of lead getting thrown up. The Commander, you mentioned the Gepard. I'm not joking about the M2, the Browning. I've seen these guys, these Ukrainians.
Go back to fielding the quad 50s that they did in World War II.
That's right, exactly, on the back of a half track. That's literally, I've seen the Ukrainians jury rig these 4 M2 Browning 50 caliber machine guns, and again, living here in Kiev, and not just here in Kiev, but also when you get closer to the front, there are nights when it's just the amount of lead that's being thrown up into the air and that's what you need to do with these things.
It's like a cowboy wedding, man. Just
there you go.
Also, SSW Custom Sewing is wondering how many people in Ukraine are saving cooking grease oil for glycerin production.
Ooh.
That was more at the beginning of the war. I don't know what's happening right now. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
You never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Slavie.
Everybody is ready to do to everything. They're the entire nation. The entire nation is mobilized.
When Europeans approach their safety, it's brought up like the NATO, and in the peaceful times, especially like before the full-scale invasion, they produce these amazing technologies like tanks and stuff, and rockets and missiles. But Europeans think on a 4-year election cycle. You bring up something beautiful, marvelous, something that works really, really well, but you make like 5-10 pieces of it. You show NATO, listen, okay, we're still at the forefront of invention. We're still the greatest military threat. And Russia is counting on that. They understand, okay, they may have like the Leopard tanks, right? But there's only like what, 300 of them. We have 20,000 of like these old tanks, which we're just gonna overwhelm, which are cheap, you know, and NATO's is expensive and limited numbers. And this war is exposing that.
Yeah, one of the things that Ukraine has shown is that the older tanks, like the Leopard 1s, not the Leopard 2A, 5s or 6s or whatever, the Leopard 1s, those are very effective on the battlefield. And everybody laughs about the fact that the Russians are bringing old T-62s and even T-54s out of retirement and putting them on the front. But let's be honest, for some uses, those are great. For supporting an infantry attack, they're very effective.
Right.
So, you know, maybe you need that cheaper option instead of always going for the high end.
And
Lots of
T-55, for those who
M113s over
don't
here.
know, T-55 is from the 50s. That's how the numbers work. So that's what they're using in modern war.
The Ukrainians are rolling around in M113s, and they love them. They love them, by the way. Every Ukrainian soldier I've spoken to who rides in the back of an M113, which I think is a nightmare's proposal.
Yeah.
You want to get a spinal fracture, get in the back of an M113 and roll around for a few hours. But the important thing is they're these little armored pillboxes that they can maneuver to a position strategically, and then when the battlefield lines change or when they need to move assets, that's what is that? That's late 50s, early 60s technology, right, for the Ukrainians. But we have a stockpile of them, and they're not really going to be missed. I would love to see more Bradleys over here.
Bradleys are great. I mean, amazing machine.
The Bradley is I owe my life to a Bradley. I was in combat in Baghdad in a Bradley. We got hit 7 times with an RPG, and I'm here to talk about it. So the Bradley is a fantastic piece of kit.
Yeah, there are enough incidents of the Bradley taking on T-72s and winning to let you know how effective that is.
Yep.
Great.
25 Mike, baby.
And I think they're kind of cheap to make, and United States has like thousands of them, right?
Well, no, it's not cheap to make, and they don't have a huge excess of them.
And we're not producing them. We're not producing them anymore.
Commander McMillan.
But we do have them stockpiled, Commander. I know we have a lot of mothballed, but yeah, you're right. To bring them back up to active service, you know, there's a cost to that. So, but they could and they should.
Oh, absolutely.
Slavie.
This is for Commander McMillan. There's a question coming in for you. Do you know, from Sarah, do you know about the Ravens? They seem to be effective against drones and even missiles. Do you know how long they take to produce?
My answer to her, I answered that on the chat stream. I said, no, I don't know enough about the Raven system to speak authoritatively. I'm not going to make myself look ignorant here by doing it. I need to do some research.
Okay, fair enough. Also, Paul Gilbert is asking, I hear that Russians are now flying their drones higher to avoid marching gunfire. Is this true? I'm looking at.
Yeah, I've heard of that technique. I've heard of that technique. That they've adopted to a different technique, and I don't know if anybody has likewise heard this, but they fly at a higher elevation, and then when they get over their target area, they'll nosedive. You know, so I've heard of that happening. I don't know if it's. Look, one of the things about the Russians is at the very beginning of the war, they were terrible at adapting, but they have here and there actually done some really, you know, interesting maneuver. Kind of, they try this, they try that, they try the other thing. So I don't know if this is a new technique that they're going to stick with, or if they're just trying it out. I don't know how well the Ukrainians can defend against it. But yeah, I have heard of that technique being.
They have an overabundance of arrogance and self-righteousness that leads them into stupid things quite often. But they are a big, massive group of human beings, and there is going to be smart ones in there somewhere, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of historical precedent for the Russian military getting caught flat-footed in the early part of war and then learning the lessons the hard way in implementing new strategies, tactics, developing new systems that put them at the forefront of the operation. For example, by the end of World War II, Russian tank offensives were easily as good as anything the Germans had for a blitzkrieg.
Mm.
Also, there's a question for all. What would happen if Ukraine demanded NATO membership in exchange for sharing their anti-drone warfare expertise with NATO? They're offering their help without payback already. This question is from It Wasn't Me.
They're getting help already, and that's one of the things that is kind of expected, is that as lessons are learned on the battlefield, they will let the folks at NATO know this system works, this doesn't, these tactics work, these don't, etc. It's paying back by other means than cash.
Yeah. And there is a lot of wealth in some of that knowledge, as we're seeing right now.
Very much so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, Tim Moments is saying he's surprised that no one mentions the Sky Ranger or ongoing project of Skynex being mounted on the Leopard.
Yep. They do.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't seen it in action yet. So what can we? But I can't comment on this. It might be a good idea, and it might turn out terrible. Let's see how that works. So then I guess we'll be able to give more comments because, well, okay, they're trying that out. Good, but otherwise, we'll just have to wait until proper commenting.
Yeah.
You don't put something into serious production until you've had a few prototypes go out and prove that it actually works.
Yeah, just ask Elon Musk. Oh.
I have a little bit of some good news. There are gasoline shortages in Russia. At this point, Ukraine has taken out 25% of total Russian oil offline. Ukrainian drones hit Ryazan oil refinery, which is producing 6 million tons of fuel yearly. Ilsky refinery in Krasnodar, which outputs 100,000 barrels per day, which is like one of the smaller ones. And that was the one that was supplying fuel to Crimea. So right now, there are lots of videos and pictures of huge lines of cars trying to buy gasoline in Russia. Russians are finally feeling the effects of this war, which Putin promised it will never come to regular Russians, but it did come to them, and I think that's wonderful news.
It's like the American oil crisis of the 70s, except it's just this long line of shitty old Ladas.
Yeah, and that's in September. Yeah, but that's in September. Think about what it's going to be like in November or December.
Yeah.
You're going to sit in minus 15-degree weather in your car in some massive lineup to get petrol.
Phil, wouldn't it go further than that? Wouldn't there be quite a few more rural and out there areas where fuel is actually part of heating and stuff, and it's going to affect all supplies and
These lines are happening in Moscow area, so they're feeling it, and
that should never happen.
And
if it's happening in Moscow, think about what it's happening in Irkutsk.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
And they have a limit on how much they can fill up their car as well.
rationing.
Yeah, I've heard
another
that, you
thing-
know, you stay in this huge line and then you have a limit of 10 liters per car or per person or something. So if you have two people in the car, maybe 20 liters, but 10 liters, that's 2.5 gallons. That's all you get after like probably spending as much just standing in that line, which is wonderful.
And think about
more
and
to
think about these villages and everything out in the far east, where you have basically your little village, and then there's nothing for
Yeah.
hundreds of kilometers until there's another, little village. And supporting that network of it's why they rely on railways so much.
Those people are fucked.
Those people are going to be in real trouble. And then also to follow up on what Johnny was pointing out there about the various attacks that have happened. Recently, what was it, 2 days ago? Maybe not even 48 hours, maybe 36 hours ago, they hit Primorsk. Ukrainians hit Primorsk. And Primorsk is an oil refinery connected to a port. It's oil refinery and a container station for a port on the Baltic Sea.
Yeah.
And it
Which
is one
supports their efforts there and everything, right?
Right.
So,
It is one of the and the couple tankers, apparently, they're heavy tankers, which were docked at Primorsk at the time, were at least damaged to some degree. Primorsk is particularly interesting to me because it's one of their few year-round open warm water ports. I mean, they have Arkhangelsk and Murmansk in the north, which a corridor never fully freezes, but it's very limited in transportation. Now, the Baltic Sea has become a NATO lake with the ascension of Finland and Sweden, right? So that the international lane, which currently the Russians can sneak out of the Baltic and go out into the Atlantic in these corridors of international waters. But if Finland or Sweden or any other NATO nation wanted to shut down those shipping lanes, they could do it like that tomorrow. But for now, for now, it's one of their only ways that they're supporting their shadow fleet, which is how they're getting around sanctions. And if Primorsk really gets hit to the extent of being inoperable, it's gonna only get worse for them. So I don't think we should overlook that massive strike on Primorsk.
Ukraine also hit a ship, Novorossiysk, as well.
Yeah.
I think that's the one that. No, you're right. That's a different one.
Okay,
Sorry.
and it's one of Russia's spy ships, and it's near Novorossiysk, but they turned it into fish food pretty much. Smashed its bridge, knocked out its eyes, and sent a very clear message.
Mr. D, you have a picture of that Primorsk station that was hit that Phil was talking about.
Let me just go through here.
And if I may tag on and say,
what the
I'm
sorry, wrong button. That, right?
I just sent it to you just a second ago.
Okay.
Something that is hand in glove with this is the fact that the Russian central bank has again lowered interest rates to try to shore up the economy. So and this is like the third or fourth time since
panic move.
Yes. I spoke exactly about this with Igor Lipsitz. Now he's no longer Russian. He's in Lithuania.
Yeah.
And he really spoke with him about the situation, and he explained that Russia really needs they need to get rubles exchange rate up again. They need to make rubles stronger, but as they overdid it with like pushing it down for a while. They need a weak ruble now. Sorry, but they pushed it up too strongly. So now there's going to be issues in economics no matter what for Russia. They cannot really fix anything. It's out there, and that's going to cause massive issues for them quite in quite near future. That is the general consensus among a lot of economists from this region that I've spoken to. So right now, whatever they do right now with their exchange rate, yeah, that's not going to help much. And I'll have a bit more news from the very weird scandal that's happening on there on the Zedvatnik side, which hurts their volunteer aid, but that's later. I just wanted to add that about Russians lacking things that in Donetsk, where they have issues of water, not only with gasoline, water situation in Donetsk has turned even worse, because that keeps getting worse. Currently, the situation is that Denis Pushilin, the local governor, runs a gang of people who, when they get their water delivery once every 3 days for like a couple of hours, they take a huge canister, fill up their water, and don't let people fill it up, and then they sell it in plastic bottles in stores for like 8,000% like mega markup. So now the government
where did they learn that tactic? Sicily in the 1930s? What the hell?
I think these guys are professionals, but yeah, right now there's also have been and now but other people caught on. So today we also saw the first actual fight between two groups of people, drive away commoners, like common people of Donetsk, from where they can get this Russian water, and then they start fighting amongst themselves about who is going to steal all of it and to then sell abroad.
Oh my God!
Rival water gangs fighting for control.
The water war began to have the water wars.
That's when you know that the war is worth fighting.
Also,
To put this in perspective, Donetsk was the richest city of Ukraine. That's what Russia has exploited at the beginning of the war. They were kind of saying the same messages as they're saying about California right now. If we secede from United States, we're the richest state, we're gonna do just fine. That's what they were telling to Donetsk people. Donetsk people in 2012, 2 years before the Russian invasion, they were having Shakira concert, Rihanna concert. They had a Euro soccer
brand new airport
championship, brand new airport, which is completely destroyed right now. And now they're fighting for water. That's what Russian liberation in action looks like.
I also water at all. It's every 3 days they get like dirty water, and the water that runs, it's blue.
Yeah.
I want to follow up on what Johnny had said earlier there about one of the problems. I lived in Moscow in the 90s, and I saw the end of I saw the chaos of the 90s in Russia, and I saw one of the reasons why Putin was brought in was because there was this. It was never explicitly stated, but there was this understanding that Putin would stop the chaos of the 90s. That was like one of his big selling points to rising to power and to quashing civil society and freedom of speech and civil liberties. The agreement was, you let us take care of the political, the oligarchy, the kleptocracy. Don't you worry about that. And in return, you will not have car bombings and assassinations and the rampant corruption. Although, for a Russian, that's their varying degrees. But that was the deal. And now you've got gas lines and you have Ukrainian drones flying into buildings in Moscow. And I just wonder, how much longer will that agreement that was made in the 90s at the end of the Yeltsin era and the rise of Putin still be acceptable to, and we all know the history of Russia and their propensity for putting up with being oppressed. But nevertheless, that was the agreement with Putin, was stop the chaos, and we will turn a blind eye to you destroying the, idea of becoming a modern democracy or whatever, becoming a modern nation.
Yeah, because everything that started ended right there, right?
Yeah.
Also, baby. How is this for another story about shit economy from Russia? Their Army of Russia retail chain clothing stores. It's a good one. It's closing amid its losses.
I love that story.
Actually, Russia has a huge history of putting up with abuse from their power.
It's all they've ever known.
Yeah. And they say that Russians will never protest, never revolt. However, all that's been proven false this week. Did you guys hear about protests in Russia that were just this week? And it's about...
Have they ever heard of the Bolsheviks?
No, that's...
So
basically,
go ahead. Yeah.
Russians took to the street in very small numbers, very weak, anemic protests, but they happened across many cities in Russia still, demanding freedom of internet. Russia has come up with some new laws recently, and each telephone or smartphone is mandatorily has to be equipped with Max Messenger, which is kind of like Telegram Messenger, but Telegram is not connected to FSB tightly enough. So Max is completely in there. So
it doesn't have a back door. It has a back field that everyone's allowed in.
You love the advertisement for this because I've been watching this. They run ads for this Max Messenger stating that Max Messenger is completely safe and secure. Your information will be available only to Russian special services.
Yep.
So what's interesting about this
I bet
protest...
Elon Musk wrote that because he's about to bring that out on X.
Oh, for sure.
You would love that. So both liberals and communists were present on the streets demanding their rights, which was kind of ironic and funny.
Very much so. That's more ironic than anything Alanis Morissette put in the damn song.
Yeah.
Well, their history is cyclical. They suffer, they suffer, they suffer. They can't suffer anymore. There's an uprising, usually pretty bloody, not always, but then they go back to a status quo, and then they suffer, they suffer, they suffer, they suffer. There's some sort of massive, there's some sort of uprising, and back to the status quo. It just repeats itself.
Yeah.
Rinse and repeat, whether it's the Romanovs or the Soviets or Putin. It's the same thing over and over again.
You know what we got to do here? I'm just seeing that we're almost live for an hour, and I haven't done one shout out, and we've got a couple to do. So let's get caught up on the housekeeping because most important are the shout outs. So first off, let's get everybody caught up on the fact that we do actually have a fundraiser going. We haven't spoke of it yet. Claire's going to kick my ass. I'm sure it's coming soon. I can feel WhatsApp Messenger vibrating with the foot of doom. But we got the Car for Ukraine fundraiser, the Autumn Harvest here. We'll get the link in the live chat for you. I'm pretty sure it's in the description. If not, I'll get that fixed right away. It's a very important fundraiser. We're partnered up with a couple other channels and people. Not everybody's a YouTube channel doing this stuff. Some are just like Xers or whatever. So, but we're going for a rocket truck this time because I like making things go boom. So donations are so much appreciated. You have no idea. Well, actually, you do because you guys donate all the time because you know how much they're appreciated. So I guess I'm talking out of my, I won't say it. We got Paul Gilbert in with a really great one here. Best crowd in the world. Always a good discussion. Onwards and upwards. You know what? We'll see if we can get the other one to go here too. Can we get that one? Come on, there we go. Yeah, good one, Paul. Thank you, man. We got Super Chat Matt in the chat with an awesome one. Slavie, Ukraine. Hero, Slava, buddy. Good one. I got Edward Cooley in the chat with a $10 Super Chat. But there's no message. So, Edward, if you want, just tag me in the live chat here. I don't know what it is these days. I'll just put he there. Mr. Dawes, tag me and I'll give you a shout out because a lot of times that happens to people and they're like, oh, shit, I was going to put something in and it screwed me over. And But huge thanks there, Edward. And we got Liam Wakefield on the mod team as well. And it's Remember Pete Foosh. Oh, yeah. Pete was a guest on our show many times. Pete was volunteer medic in Ukraine, a super awesome guy. And, you know, he gave the ultimate gift to try and repel the orcs. Yeah, I've got, you know, one day, because I did get permission, one day on this show, I'm going to show you some videos that Pete sent that we weren't allowed to show before. But there's no areas to give up. There's no things that could be learned from them anymore. You know, we can show some of these videos. So we'll, you know, maybe we'll do like an extra show on a Tuesday or something, and we'll just share some cool stuff with you.
Yeah, that would be great. His videos, because I actually, this was before I came to the Shills, but I knew of him and his videos and how inspiring and passionate he made the videos.
Yeah. He was a special son of a bitch, that guy, man. Yeah.
Speaking of charisma.
Yeah, he was something cool. But yeah, so, and I've got them all in a folder saved. I went through my entire WhatsApp history with the man and grabbed everything. And you know what? I'll plan that up coming up. Definitely. Let's flip the script. Slavie, any shout outs or anything you want to do over from your side?
Thank you to SSW to giving one lucky gift to be a member of Channel Yarochenko. So thanks so much. And let's keep going.
We lost our leader.
Oh, I didn't see that you left. Okay, let's keep going with the news. A real what the fuck story from this past week is that US pulled out of the disinformation fight with Europe. So this past week, Washington killed its joint effort with Europe to fight disinformation from Russia, China, and Iran. The State Department terminated the agreements that let the US and Europe work together to expose propaganda just months before major elections across the West.
Yeah, I mean, that talks about our stance as a country on this issue, something that's very important. And the whole world is trying to come together and trying to come up with ways to deal with this. And we're showing that we're not interested. And maybe the reason we're not interested, that we're okay with what's going on. That our enemies are absolutely rampant in the cyberspace, in the information space. They're affecting the elections over here, which so far benefited Trump. So maybe that's partly the reason.
Yeah. Also, here's another risk of this, because Europe loses joint tools against AI-driven disinformation campaigns. This means Ukraine's information defense is now weaker without the U.S. backing of this fighting propaganda program.
Mm.
Well, as long as the Shills are here, we'll have a good fight for those disinformation campaigns.
Speaking of which, we might as well just seal the deal here now while we're live on the show. Next week, I want to do a segment right in the middle. And we're going to do our Debunk Defunct segment where we bring in a couple of, like, you know, social media posts or little videos by somebody or whoever that are proper, like, good propaganda, not just BS troll shit, but real propaganda, and tear into it for a minute.
Bring it on, Mr. D.
If you want something that is going to show you and basically expose to you how the Vatniks think and how insane that is. In one of my streams, I'm gonna send you with a time link, because I went through a massive interview with Yuri Yevich. Like, Yuri Yevich and Maxim Kalashnikov, two Vatniks, that they came together and they spoke all about the very weird ultra-Orthodox nationalism that they sort of support. And that is a watch that I highly recommend that you guys do. I'll send you the link, because that was painful, and kind of it breaks people's minds if you don't understand how they really think that they're doing some sort of divine God's work, and how they hate everyone. It's great.
Was that the guy that played Kalashnikov that won an Oscar for Anora? That film?
No. Yuri Yevich is the guy that does tactical medicine trainings for the Russian army, and he's also utterly insane and literally considers that everyone outside of that by just not wanting to be a part of Russia, you are a Satanist and a cannibal. And he believes it in all sincerity. And that's like an insane amount of. It's 2 hours, and it caused me insane amounts of pain to kind of work with this stuff and translate this. But I think that you really should. It's on my stream recently, but I'll send you the link right now, because I made one with a time code where that nonsense starts, and I believe, as I'm there, I translate that into English, and there's like subtitles all over the place. If you want to know their real mindset and how much hatred goes in there, and what would it mean if they would actually succeed or something, yeah, it's a painful watch, but people really should take some time out of their day to watch it. I don't like show my channel here normally or ever. I don't like to do that stuff, but
Go ahead.
in this
You
specific
should. Why not?
in this
Yeah.
specific
Oh, I'm
case,
I'm shameless.
Oh, yeah.
We're called the Shills, man. That's you know.
There's a reason for that.
well, you are you are, but my show's the Eastern Border. I will find the link with the timestamp, and I'll post it here in the chat.
Yeah.
Because that's literally, because these guys are actually these are influential, because they are among the volunteers who do the most for the Russian army. These are the ideological people,
Right.
like these people who truly believe in the cause. But the problem is that their cause is so horrendous and makes so less sense that I don't even know. Like you should be able to check it out and see what's happening there. Oh yeah, here is. I'll just post it here in the chat. This is with the timestamp. I did this thing. Just go there. This is where the starts.
You might not be able to post a link in the chat.
No. It was in our chat here in the background.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll definitely check it out, and thank you for doing this. And I just admire people like Kristaps, because somebody has to go into like these Russian spaces which are completely insane. And I will be the first one. I will be the first one to admit that I cannot do it. Absolutely. So someone like Kristaps is a hero in my eyes, because he goes into these unfiltered Russian spaces and he presents it to us, which is more digestible, because he is putting himself as a filter for normal people to kind of analyze what Russians are really up to. And it's a vile business.
Let me jump in quick, guys.
I just want.
Guys, just real quick, let me jump in, because I just heard from Edward Cooley in the chat there, and the message on that $10 super chat, so round of applause again, was nothing short of Ukraine will win. And I like that message a lot. All right, there we go. Caught up.
About those Vatnik spaces, I have a bit of news here for you, because again, I follow them time, and yeah. It is pretty difficult, but it's also, when I started my show, when I spoke about the history of Soviet Union and gathered a lot of information about the events there, at the first time I had to like censor myself, because some of these cases, even when I had documentation and stuff, people just wouldn't believe me at all.
Yeah.
Just couldn't believe how insane it was. But currently in Vatnik space, they have a tragedy literally just happened to them, which hurts now the donations that they give to the army, because one of the biggest war propagandists on their side, who also was in the Kremlin's selected pool of war correspondents, who also served as an advisor for Kursk region there, Roman Nalyohin, he's very well known in the Z space. He was caught on camera discussing a plan with a businessman on how to embezzle a bunch of people's donations to the Russian army to the extent of 200 million rubles. But this comes at a time where basically there are these hardline fanatics in Russia which is why I posted the link, and then there are those people, much like the farmers in Arkansas who voted for Trump, those kind of people who are like, they're not interested that much, but they also like their creature comforts.
Yeah.
So now they've gone tired of the war on their side, so donations kind of fall off on Russian side. So then the hardliners try to convince them that they should instead be more orthodox and patriotic and do crazy stuff. So they donate even less. And now this scandal came out. Vladimir Solovyov on air also said about this. And now the donation levels, like Vatniks complain about the fact that in their end donations have reached an all-time low because now nobody even trusts them anymore. and as that army really relies like to an insane degree on people helping them, they're just complaining and yelling about it all the time. For example, today, I think it was Kanal Ossetin or something. I'm sitting on all of their Telegram channels. He posted that they were gathering for medical kits for the army. They needed basically they needed 200,000 rubles, but they in 2 weeks basically have managed to acquire 11,000 rubles. And I'll tell you how much. That's 112 euros for 2 weeks of a channel of about 200,000 subscribers over there. And this just is another scandal, and they're just arguing about themselves.
Amazing.
See, the thing is that they are literally hurting themselves so much because these people who just donated because they don't care as much. They just want to be patriotic in their own heads. They don't maybe care about politics. Yeah, they also don't like when these ultra radicals are coming into them and telling that they should follow proper orthodoxy and that they're all scum for not believing in this ultra patriotic cause. So they have their own internal struggles to the nth degree right now, especially since they always deny everything, because the number one issue in the whole Russian culture is the fact that they cannot admit mistakes, which then, or because then that's considered a massive faux pas over there. But when it's shown straight up in the face, this fact that Roman Alyoshin, who, like, if it was a random guy out of all of the people whom I follow on Telegram, then that would be one thing. But this guy was shown on national television, because he has a personal gripe also with Vladimir Solovyov. And Vladimir Solovyov hated him so much because, like, it would be probably better for the Russian side to just, shrug it under the carpet and don't tell anyone. But as it's now on their official propaganda, now everyone knows that these volunteers actually, are apparently embezzling money. And they truly are, because, for example, a lot of them also, like, there is a lady called Montyan who bought 2 apartments for their volunteer money. And in a way, this Russian corruption is helping our cause, because they gathered their donations. Sometimes they fill them, sometimes they finish them. But lately, especially in the past 2 weeks, oh boy, they are coming down completely. But currently they're having a Santa Barbara here. And there's another little good news, which I want to show you. I'll just share my screen here.
Okay.
I'll just pick it up. It's not this time. It's nothing violent. Don't worry. I remember after the last time when I showed you those pictures. Check this out. You see this? This is a memorial. Wait, it's not the right tab.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at this wonderful bizarro piece here. Zed Vatniks collected
money. Can
money.
You size it up at all? It's a little small.
Here we go. This is a memorial which Vatniks collected about 200,000 rubles for, a memorial for heroes of the special military operation. But they didn't pay. They paid the artists to make all this stuff, and then they went to the Vladimir Oblast's governor. Didn't pay him the bribe, so they actually can't build it and set it up in real life, because this looks so atrocious with everything, and they wasted so much money on it already. But they didn't bribe the Vladimir Oblast person, and he decided that he wants nothing to do with this nonsense if they won't pay him. So yeah, they not only this monument will not only be not put up there. He also decided that these guys, by putting this, as this lady apparently looks too Catholic, and that offends the feelings of the true Russian Orthodox, which means that in Vladimir Oblast, these people who paid for this and wanted this to be set up there for their heroes of the special military operation, they are now facing charges even more, because again, this all happens because you don't pay bribes there. Thank you, corruption.
Wow.
And it's kind of silly because of all this situation. Because again, just the levels of absurd corruption and its results inside of Russia is to such a degree that, I don't know. Like, I was still born in USSR, but if you're not from our region, if you're a Westerner, it's sometimes really hard to explain what's actually going on in Russia. So
yeah.
It's weird.
I just wanted to jump in here to when you say, Russian Orthodox, there is absolutely nothing church or holy about their church. It's pretty much you worship the devil. If you've seen photos of their churches, they're black.
Oh, if you want to know what they worship, that's exactly
no,
why
I just want to make sure for viewers, when you say, Christian Orthodox, so they don't think like we're insulting God or anything, Christian. We're not, because they none of them even go to church. Russians are not religious at all. They go like a very small percent of them go on like holidays or whatever. But
I think they just like the domes.
In my last episode, in my big one, I actually did a research thing that proves your point, because I wanted to show this exactly. I'm also apparently we're going to do a PhD thesis on this Russia as a religion and how they view Russia, more importantly, in this stuff. So I went through a bunch of their Telegram channels and did sort of I scoured and modified my bot that gathers news from them to check out the usage of, like, in how many posts a certain word appears. And in their central, like, they have this Kvachkov guy who's their central religious figure who boosts up, like, who basically their central religious dogmatic guy who does all the Vatnik philosophy things. And I checked through his posts, and he always claims that he's super ultra mega orthodox and that everyone else is the devil. Well, throughout his posts, Jesus appeared in 13. God appeared in 103. Stalin was on 106, and World War II was on 169. 79 posts have been killing, and even Igor Girkin was on 18 posts. So to them, Igor Girkin beat Jesus. Let's not even talk about Stalin. Stalin beats God easily. So it's most important. So, like, their great patriotic war and all this war stuff, that's a central part of their religion. Again, that's been my theme lately, because I am actually doing a proper academic research on this subject. The fact that when they say that they're the third Rome, well, they truly view it in a religious light. That's why they also call everyone who doesn't want to be a part of Russia as the Antichrist and the devil, because to them, the Russia is the divine entity, the promised land, basically. And Jesus, secondary figure behind Stalin. That's what they're talking about. And this thing that I gave you, this link here, it involves a discussion specifically about this, because they use this holiness of Russia and this weird religious aspect in their propaganda. And this is 2 hours explaining why that is totally okay and why is the best thing. And it contains all this massive. Well, if you are a person of religion and if you're an actual Christian, this will hurt you, because this is horrible, and this explains what they actually mean when they talk about Christianity. I recorded this because I know that a lot of conservative people in the United States support Russia for their traditional values, but they don't understand what those values actually are.
Exactly.
This will explain it to you.
That's why I was like, it's 1 second. I thought it's so important to say that, because so many here in America think of Russia as this perfect Christian nation, and it's so far from that. But it's important to always debunk
and it tends to be the evangelicals and the Baptists and in America this kind of Protestant evangelical white nationalist kind of groups. But what they don't understand is that actually the Russian Orthodox Church, above pretty much everybody else, I mean, they despise the Catholic Church. They see the Pope as the Antichrist, but even more so in some ways are the Protestants, and in particular evangelical Protestants. They really despise those guys. So, like, one of the first things they do when they occupy a town or a whatever, in a city or what have you, they will go to these evangelical churches, and that's one of the first things they'll do is they'll tear it down. So these American white Christian nationalists who actually think that they're on board and share common ground with Russian Orthodoxy have absolutely no idea about what the Russian Orthodox Church is really all about.
Well, then please do click that link and watch that stream part, because that is the most refined thing that I could find. It is just I've been at this for many years now, and and now I've gotten so jaded that I can pretty much watch Solovyov without feeling any cringe anymore. This was painful even for me. So I highly recommend having some whiskey or other booze with you, because you will scream at the screen. You will scream at the screen. It will not be pleasant, and this is what I put myself through sometimes. But
the other thing is, if you have a corded mouse, wrap the cord around your wrist because you don't want that mouse to end up embedded in your screen.
Yeah, I cannot watch Solovyov anymore. And I said it before, I'll say it again. Russia is not a Christian nation. Russians, when you've seen those images when, what's it called? Soviet Bolsheviks, they came to power, they destroyed the Russian Empire, which was empire was like emperor was put there by God or whatever. So they were destroying churches. They were throwing the crosses off of the churches. They were using the church buildings as warehouses to store potatoes and stuff like that. And that's how it was until 1943, in the middle of World War II, when Joseph Stalin, he established the Russian Orthodox Church again. So what he did is he signed that decree, and he had 3 signatures. That was the Soviet way. You need to do a document, and then you need 3 signatures. So the document was drafted by Joseph Stalin, welcome to Russian Orthodox Church. And the 3 signatures were, I don't remember all the names, but one of the names was General Krasnov. His hands are like up to the elbow in blood. He's responsible for mass murders of civilians and war prisoners of war and stuff like that. So that's one of the people, and the other 2 are no better. Just believe me on that. Basically, the 3 most worst people possible, with their hands in blood, just signing off on the establishment of Russian Orthodox Church. Now,
yeah, Stalin plays a central figure there, because even today, occasionally on their posts, they mention that, that Stalin, like on Stalin's death day, on their anniversary, the Vikings actually spread around themselves on Telegram channels a kind of a prayer written by this guy who's doing the interview there, prayer for Stalin, who's in heaven, obviously. Yeah, because that is just like Stalin to them is this divine builder of their whole thing. And they always say this, that, when they say that the Third Rome,
hold on. Like, I'm confused 1 second, because heaven isn't the place where you get hot feet all day, right? I'm just
it's look, comrade, you are making a small mistake. You are applying reason. You have had too much to think, comrade. Too much to think.
If anybody wants to watch watch a film, which I think lays out quite well how all of this is being played out in Putin's Russia, how religion and the state are used basically to oppress the people of Russia. Some would argue willingly, but nevertheless, there's a film called Leviathan, came out in 2014.
I remember that.
And it's a hell of a watch. I'm actually shocked that Moscow put it up for a foreign Oscar. It's basically a rendition of the trials of Job. And it does clearly show, it depicts how the church and the state are, working hand in glove, not out of any religious intent or, a betterment of the people of Russia, but basically just to grab power and grab onto power and hold on to power. It came out in 2014, Leviathan. It is in Russian. But I know there's a subtitle version, it's a tough watch, but it depicts this quite well, I think, for a foreign audience.
Yeah. Well, isn't that kind of go back to the early days when Russia's doing its thing and Christianity's coming around, and what's his name there, the big leader at the time, invites a few people over and he's like, okay, convert me. Because this new religion is spreading around, you might as well get in on it. And as soon as he found out that the Muslims, no alcohol, I'm not doing that. And he picked
the Jews cut off part of your dick.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
You're thinking of the story of Volodymyr. You're thinking of Volodymyr the Great. Yeah.
Right.
That's the story of Volodymyr the Great.
Yeah. And he chooses Greek Orthodox, which gives the classical architecture of things and so on and whatnot, you see. But nobody ever seems to have actually followed it very well or properly, or it seems to have always been a arm of the government to make sure they have control in all areas.
It's a
My
social
favorite,
control.
one of my favorite,
Yeah.
one of my favorite painters from the region, and I don't want to get into a debate on who owns him now because he was born outside of Kharkiv. So some say he's a Russian colonist, and others Ukrainians claim him. There's a guy by the name of Ilya Ripin. He's one of my favorite painters of all time, and he's a fantastic realist painter from the very end of the Tsarist period. And he has a painting called the Religious Procession at Kursk, and it shows all the strata of Russian elitist society mixed with the poverty, mixed with the church, and it's all about carrying this icon down this dusty road outside of Kursk. And the military and the kind of hoity-toity are beating the crap out of the like kids and the normal people.
Wow.
And both the church, the wealthy, and the government depicted in the way of like army officers are just absolutely beating the crap. It's not about religion. It's not about faith. It's about power.
Yeah, you probably, by the way, have seen at least one painting of Ilya Repin, because he also is the author of the famous Zaporozhian Cossacks Write the Answer to Turkish Sultan painting.
My favorite.
Yeah,
Fuck your mother.
But I have, by the way, interesting news just literally plopped up on my Telegram bot of Vatnik News, which might be good enough to actually tell you right now, because Igor Girkin's buddy, Maxim Kalashnikov, just spread this, and now it's spreading around because this comes straight from the Russian front lines to you, comrades. Because he just got the message that I just received. Reports from the front line on the Russian side indicate that due to restrictions on cash withdrawals from bank cards effective September 1, courtesy of Russian Central Bank, our soldiers, which he means Russians obviously, in the combat zone are unable to withdraw their pay. The central bank recommended that banks introduce such restrictions in order to combat fraud, so that idiot victims would not rush to cash out their savings and transfer them to telephone scammers. Savings can only now be withdrawn after visiting a bank branch and submitting an application. And here's the comment from this guy. But do bank officials understand that our soldiers will have to travel en masse to the nearest bank branches or to their unit headquarters and make a crowd there with their applications? And what does a gathering of soldiers mean when there are enemy drones in the sky and long-range precision artillery? After all, our frontline soldiers don't just transfer money to their families. They need funds to buy gasoline, drones, and sometimes new cars. In short, they need a lot of things that the Ministry of Defense does not supply or supplies poorly. In a word, the situation the front is dire. The guys are wondering, is this bureaucratic madness or just outright sabotage? Magical. This is literally just plopped in because apparently, if you're a soldier out there on the Russian side of the front line, well, you have that pay. Congrats on never being able to actually use it or do anything with it.
Yeah.
It's actually, this measure was done at the request of some of the Russian soldiers, and because of the corruption that exists in Russia, they had Russian commanders who were blackmailing the soldiers. They would ask them, go and withdraw some money, give it to me, or I'm sending you to the front line tomorrow. So those Russian soldiers.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like
we've heard this a lot. We've heard a lot of these stories. Yeah.
So they decided that you know what, we will solve this problem by just making everything also worse, but in a different way. Oh yeah, that's typical. That's typical. Really.
There's no good solution, and I applaud Russian ingenuity there.
Also, one of top Russians propagandists, Simonyan, she was diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah, sadly, trust
Let's
that
jump
cancer
into that.
Sadly,
Mr. D, I sent you 4 pictures because I was hoping we were gonna talk about this. This is the best news all week.
Chick?
There we go. There we go. This freaking face, like Krista Snow's face.
Her husband, who is currently in a coma because Ukraine took him out, but he's been in a coma for quite a few months. Wow. Okay. So yeah, now it's her too, and I'm just saying, karma is a bitch.
Yeah. Is that her too?
Yeah,
that's her.
That's her
okay,
too.
so that's her latest That's her latest picture. That's where she's describing that she has cancer, and she's receiving a medal. Do you see that? She's receiving a medal for her atrocious work. She is basically painting Ukrainians as non-humans every day. She's a chief editor of RT networks, Russian television.
Right.
They're making movies. They're making programming all around the world. The Sputnik, which is a Western arm of this network, is also it's under her command. Her husband is a vile propagandist, as bad as she is, and he was basically to get. She's actually sorry, I'm all over the place, but I'm just so excited about this. She is the author of that phrase that when the war starts, we're gonna conquer Ukraine within 2 days. 2 days. You know, she was the one who was just so just obnoxiously like anytime she brings up anytime
she looks like a well-kicked testicle that enjoyed it, you know.
That's exactly
I have met her 3 times.
Jesus
I interviewed with her right after the 2008 financial collapse, and I was desperate for work, so much so that I even considered RT, and I interviewed with her to be RT's senior Middle East correspondent after spending the last 6 years of my life being the deputy bureau chief in Baghdad for CBS News. And so I go to Moscow to interview with her, and then had a follow-up interview, and then met her in a social circumstance one time. She's an idiot. I mean, like, she's dumb. She's like really like stupid.
Look at that face. I wasn't expecting anything less.
Well, her daddy gave her the job.
How you really feel?
Yeah.
No. I'll tell you why. Because I go to Moscow. I have my meeting with her. I have the follow-up meeting with her. And she says to me at one point in the follow-up meeting, you know, what is it with these Sunni and these Shia? What is that all about? I don't understand this difference in Islam. And I just went, you're the head of a news organization, and you can't tell me the difference between Sunni and Shia, you know? And it was just like, well, her daddy gave her the job. Her daddy was a Armenian oligarch, and he, you know, basically when Mikhail Lesin, who was Putin's kind of information warfare guru, stepped down to go make billions in America very sketchily. She was brought in, and she is, I mean, just not smart. Let's just say that.
I think for propaganda, it doesn't matter if you're smart; it's how much evil you have to do, and if you're motivated by evil. Yeah.
Well, she talks. The other thing that was interesting in meeting her was how much she would bang on with me about how much America doesn't understand Russia, and you'll never understand the Ruskaya Dusha, the Russian soul.
That's true.
And you Westerners are, yeah. Well, but then at the same time, she studied in Ohio or Pennsylvania.
She started in Sorbonne, Paris. She has a journalist education from the highest institution in Paris, Sorbonne, Paris. She's Western
went to
trained.
High school. Yeah, no, absolutely. And the irony, of course, that she shits on everything Western, but she basically, you know, was raised in the West. She went to, it wasn't college. She went to high school somewhere in frickin' Ohio or Pennsylvania.
Wow.
And
There you go.
and I remember sitting down with her and her going off about how much I would never understand Russia. But then she turned around and tried to explain to me America. And I was like, you are missing so much about what America is all about, you know, because she had these silly little stories about like not being able to, I was 18 and I couldn't get a drink or just stupid stuff like that, and kind of like,
Yeah.
you know, what it is to be a
Nazi
high
in
schooler
Florida,
in America.
right?
As opposed to Soviet Union where you couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
You know, it's just she was. I mean, I there's no love lost, and you know,
Yeah.
I don't wish death on anybody, but
We're
cancer, do your thing.
we're
I do wish.
sorry,
Yeah.
everybody. 1 second here. I'm gonna jump in with this shout out quick here from Elizabeth. Love it, Elizabeth. Thank you so much. There's the hearts. Now I can hit the damn button. Thank you, the Shills, and hey, Phil Ittner. All right, I like that very much. We are like 5 minutes away from me hitting the button because Felix is about to be home. And I have to do some parenting and stuff, and then they're taking him away again. It's a very confusing weekend in my life, but that's how it works. So I'm going to send it over to Slavie so she can take us around the table for our whatnots.
Yeah. Well, this next conversation is quite tough. And it's the murder of Irina Zarutska that happened on American soil. She was a Ukrainian refugee who was boarding a train in Charlotte. I can't even get through it. It's just so horrible. I'm sure you guys have seen the video that was all over the internet. She got stabbed. No one helped her.
Yeah.
There were 5, and I'm going to say this because I have eyes. There were 5 Black people around. She was the only white woman. No one helped her.
I saw that video. It's
Yeah.
The first
Terrible
video
story.
was clipped. It wasn't as enraging. The second video, after the whole thing, I cried for hours. I was so enraged. Now, the left here in America is saying, oh, it was mental health problem. This guy was a criminal. He should have been behind bars. And by the way, it does not mean that I'm with the right. It just means I have eyes. And this guy was clearly, he needed to be behind bars. Charlotte's mayor, who's a Democrat, actually asked for sympathy for the murderer.
I think this is a gruesome murder, and what happened. It's really hard to watch. I try not to even think about that. And I think everybody is on the same page. We're not going to disagree. And I want to talk about the aftermath and the reaction of and which kind of exposed the culture wars of the United States and what we're going through over here. And I think that that's very important because, to my fear, I think the left is doing everything to make sure that Trump is going to stay forever. The way they reacted to this and the way the right and the Trump side were able to exploit it and to come on top and to be the voice of reason in this, which should be so easy for the left to take a hold of it, to be in charge of what's happening, but they were sounding like lunatics, basically. You know, the New York Times reported on this in a light that it's not a tragedy that this happened. It's just it's crazy how the right are exploiting this to amplify their right message or whatever. Like the death is not even doesn't matter, you know. And I think that's fine. You can go ahead and do that, but we have to think about the next election cycle, you know. And the Slavie, when she says, "I'm not right, I'm not left," I say the same thing. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a Democrat. I'm Ukrainian. To me, all of you guys and all of us are Americans. When people in the Western world, in Europe, they look at United States, they don't blame Trump. They blame us. We elected Trump. we made sure that Trump is in power, right? It's our fault that he's messing with allies. We're the people. And
we've literally got about 40 seconds now to say goodbyes before I have to hit the button. My son's about to be here.
I'll just say I don't like the politicization of any of this. It's an anecdotal situation, and to capitalize upon it for political gain should never have happened. Same thing with Charlie Kirk, and I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever that the GRU is exacerbating it. That's my last 2 cents.
And I'm sure that it's not over. There's going to be a conversation. So this isn't, surely is not the first or the last time we'll be discussing this. So
yeah.
By the way, I'm a big fan of Phil. I watched Phil's videos, and it looks like I'm gonna watch some of Christoph's from now on. So I'm to me this was a good meeting.
Listen to my show mostly because I started out working in audio and I just joined in YouTube recently. So there's more. If you just look up the Eastern Border podcast in audio form, that's better. But nice to meet you too, guys, and very nice to have you here as well.
Okay, yeah.
Do we have time to go around, or that's it? Bye.
I'm good. Just have enough. So everybody has 10 seconds to say goodbye.
All right, 10 seconds. Goodbye. Watch this week's episode of On the Edge. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. Kiev time.
Yes.
Yes, please watch it. Guys, thank you so much for everyone, the mods, the background team, the panel, and all your incredible work to each one of you. Thank you. And just keep supporting Ukraine. I'm not going to do my ending, which I was really excited for today, but since we have to go, I do want to say, please just keep being brave, be loud, be relentless, and God bless the world. May we come out on the other side prosperous and victorious with a just and lasting peace. And to Ukraine, thank you for being the bravest nation on earth. So be brave like Ukraine. Slava Ukraini.
Slavie, Ukraine.
Героям слава.
Well said, everybody. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Huge thanks to the team, and we'll see you soon.
It's over. Go home. Go.